Hello everybody. Just want to do a quick little video on installing this Holley Sniper EFI on my small block Chevy. It's a 350. It's basically the simplest setup you can have for one of those Sniper EFIs. It's an HEI, so nothing crazy, no coils, nothing like that. It's just honestly just a couple wires here and there, a little bit of work to get an O2 sensor. And I know my engine bay is a mess right now and there's a lot of wires, but it might look like it. I already have it all set up, and that's because I've had this Sniper EFI for quite a while now, and they're really nice to have. It's so easy to just put this on there and let it tune itself. You don't have to worry about swapping jets or power valves or anything like that. You just tell it what to idle at, it idles. You tell it what air-fuel ratio, and it nails it. And I'm really happy with mine. But yeah, I just wanted to do a quick little video showing just the average guy how to install these really quick. I don't want to go super in depth. I don't want to tell you how to wire things, but I'll just point out how I have mine set up, and I know mine works. It's been working for quite a while now. So yeah, let's get started. Yeah, like I said, my Holley Sniper, I had to send it back to Holley actually. It was working great, and for anyone that's been following the videos, you guys probably know, but my O2 sensor just started reading dead lean, and it just wasn't running very good, and obviously because it couldn't figure out what the air feel was. I did some testing and wired my O2 sensor right there to a separate O2 gauge that I had set up already on a previous setup, and the O2 sensor was still working, but the Holley just wasn't picking up the E-signal. So I called Holley, quick couple-minute conversation. They told me to send it back. Sent it back to them. They fixed it in a couple days, sent it back for me. I paid for shipping there, they paid to ship it back. So pretty good deal on all that. They said it was a failed O2 circuit. They had to swap the ECU, and they bench tested it and said it's all good to go now. So it's back. I'm ready to install it. Ready to get the Camaro back on the road. Go to the drag strip, something. I'm not too sure, but I'm ready. Alright, so a little bit of unboxing here. You're going to get your manuals here. I highly recommend going through all those, just reading it all, getting a general understanding of what you need. Some of it can be a little confusing, but it's all pretty straightforward. But the page that you basically need is this guy right here. You're going to be spending all your time on that page right there. You also have your touchscreen display here. They're pretty good quality. They're not too cheesy or anything like that. It's not like any of those old Garmin GPSs or anything like that. The touchscreen is calibrated pretty well, and it feels pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. Then you also have just an O2 sensor. So you got all that, and then you guys are also going to have a couple other things in your box. You're going to have the rest of your wiring harness, which I already have hooked up, just to save some time, but you're going to have your fuses, your relays right there, and those are already in there. You're going to have some bung stuff for your O2 sensor. Either you can weld it on like I did, or I think you can also get a clamp on, and either one of those work just fine, but whichever one you prefer. You're also going to have your 7-pin harness right there, and that's, well, it'll go over right here, but that's basically for the tack signal, unless you're running a different type of ignition system. But for an HEI Chevy like mine, yeah, you basically just need it for the tack. But putting these aside, to go over the Holley here, I tried to set it up like they have right here. But coming out of here, you have a couple different plugs. This guy right here goes to your touch screen. So you got your 7-pin and your 10-pin connector coming out of that side as well. This is the back, by the way. So you got your 7-pin right here. Nice, simple, plugs right into it. And you got your 10 pin. Plugs right in as well. Nothing fancy. It's easy to unplug those as well, so nothing gets snagged up. Then you also have your plug for your O2 sensor. Oh, I'm sorry. That's the plug for the water temp, I believe. Because I believe this right here is the O2 sensor. Yeah, that's too small to be the O2. So, looks like they might actually have that drawn wrong, maybe? Either way, you can't plug the water temp sensor into the O2, so it doesn't really matter. And then you have 4 fuel inlets on these guys. You have the 2 in the front that you could use. I choose to use this guy back here. And then this is my fuel outlet. Now I have mine capped off. There's already a fuel regulator inside here. So technically you need a fuel return coming out of here. But I already have a fuel regulator right here with a return line heading back. So I just have it capped off right now and it self-regulates just fine. I've never had an issue running them like that. But that is the gist on the unit right there. There's not much more to it. You have your normal Holley linkage right here. You adjust it just like a carburetor for the idle right there. Of course you can tell what the idle at, but sometimes it needs a little bit of help to get it just right. So I forgot to mention, but these Holley Snipers, of course, they're in EFI system, so you need a decent fuel pump. You need something that get up to, I think it's 60 psi or 58 psi for what these Holleys recommend. So a normal carburetor mechanical fuel pump won't do it. So you need a, for these 3rd gens, honestly, they're perfect. But you can either buy Holley's kit, and they'll send you all the return line, everything like that. You can wire that in. Or for my instance here, the Camaro's back here, you can open up the hatch and swap out the pump. I swapped mine, it was a TBI pump, and I swapped it out for a Walboro 155. And that thing is way more than what I need, but it works great, maintains pressure perfectly. I have my inlet coming in right there. Inlet comes in here, that goes to the EFI. This is my return line. I can adjust that there. It's also boost referenced. But yeah, I've never had an issue with that stuff at all. That's all pretty straightforward. Okay, so O2 sensor. You need to have it at a certain angle right here. They go over it in the book. I'll let you guys look through it to see what angle you need, but basically it can't be straight up, can't be straight down. It needs to be at an angle on the upside like that. And this is about as far as a line as they give you. So for me, luckily my turbo header runs right through the engine bay. I welded it right there, and it's far enough away from the exhaust flange. I think it needs to be like a foot or so, like that is what they recommend, or you will prematurely kill those O2 sensors. And they're not too cheap, so yeah, make sure you guys get that one right. Okay, so I want to go over the 7-pin harness. This is the one with the fuse and the relay on it. So you're going to have a wire coming out. It's going to be a blue wire. That's going to go to your fuel pump wire. That's going to be your prime wire, so every time you turn on the key, it's going to prime your fuel pump and it's going to run your fuel pump. And for these 3rd gens, I believe it's a gray wire over there, but I just ran a jumper over to here. Make sure you get all your connections nice. Other than that, you have your fuse right here, but coming out of the 7-pin connector right here, you've got a couple wires. This green and purple right here aren't very important. That's if you're running something other than an HEI, so we don't need to worry about that. But you're going to have your black and your red wire coming out, and that's going to be your main power and ground. And Holley recommends that you run it directly to the battery. I can tell you for my system, my battery's in the rear now, so that would have been a lot of work to get it back there, and I just found a good 12 volts while cranking source and a good ground, and my system works just fine off of that. But if you don't have a good 12 volts while cranking, yeah, that EFI system will not work, and it needs that good 12 volts. So if you have a multimeter, hook that up, test it, crank the car over, make sure you have a good 12 volts. But That's what you need out of that 7-pin connector for the main stuff. But you also have a yellow wire coming out of here, and this is actually going to the ground on my coil or the HEI. So these coils off these HEIs, you can see that black wire going into there. That's the negative signal coming out of that HEI, and that lets the EFI know that that HEI is firing so they can communicate and work together. Forgot to mention on that 7-pin connector, you also have this pink wire coming out. You're going to want to find also a good 12-volt switched source. You can kind of follow that pink wire right there. Make sure it's a switch source. You guys can do the wiring yourself. I'm sure you know which wire in your vehicle already is the switch source, but go through, find something that's your switch source, so while the key's on, it has power, key's off, it doesn't have power. So that way that Holley knows when to prime and do all its startup stuff. And yep, just got to make sure you have that good switch source power to that pink wire. Alright, just to go over the 10-pin connector here. You can see it right there. For an HEI system, the only wire you're going to use is that brown wire. And that's only if you have an aftermarket tack. So my tack right there has that wire coming out. That runs to that brown wire right there, and simple as that. It gives it the signal to the tack so you can know what the heck's going on with the engine. And that is it for that 10-pin with this HEI. Any other ignition system, and you're going to be using a lot more of those wires though. Okay, I was just looking over it again, and I think that pretty much covers everything that you need for wiring right there. But you guys, definitely go over it yourself. Make sure you get it all right. Mine's not perfect, but I mean, mine has been working for a long time now. About, I don't know, it's a little over a year, so I haven't had any issues other than the ECU having issues with that O2 circuit. But it wasn't anything on my end, so. I'm going to get this thing on the car and start plugging everything in. Okay, so once you guys have everything plugged in, plumbed up, it's basically just like a carburetor. Your throttle, this is my TV cable for my 700R4, but could also be a kickdown cable for whatever you're using. But you have your fuel, the 10-pin plugged in, the 7-pin plugged in. O2's plugged in, your tack, your coil signal, so the Holley can communicate with your HEI. You are good to turn the key on and look for fuel leaks, because there's always one fuel leak. Okay, so once you're in your car, you got everything wired up there, go ahead and turn on the key. You should see your screen power up there. It's going to run some stuff. Now, for me, it goes straight to this screen. For you guys, I think it's probably going to go straight to the wizard option. And I'm just going to run a whole new setup, just because I think my O2 sensor probably gave it some bad readings. So I'd rather just do a whole new setup here. So new. Now you can just go through here, select your cylinders, your engine displacement. Doesn't have to be dead on, but 355. This thing's bored a little bit over, so it's a 355. So once you're done with that, you can set your target idle speed. I'm going to say 900 for now. I have a street strip type cam in it, and that all depends on your how much inches of mercury you're pulling a vacuum at idle. But you guys should know that already. Power out or none. It's a coil, so that negative is what we're using. It doesn't have an HEI option on here, which was a little confusing at first, but yeah, it is the coil option. So you can use that. Do that. And then you can hear my fuel pump just kicked on. So it's priming. Now it's going to tell you to cycle the ignition to complete the operation. And then you go and hit finish. Brings you back to this screen, and it's priming for quite a while. Hopefully that's right, but we'll shut it off and hopefully it okay, there we go. Cool, that worked. Now we're going to turn the key back on. Cool, it's priming, should last for 2 or 3 seconds. And alright, cool, shut off. So now we're back here. Now I'm just going to take a peek up front, make sure there's no fuel leaks. So I'm all good right there. Nice and dry on my connection there. You can see it's a little wet in there because when it primes, it gives it just a little squirt of fuel. So this is a brand new setup on a brand new tune on this thing. So I'm curious if it's going to start right up. I don't know. Yeah, I'm going to go set this up and see if we can get the start right up on the first shot. Alright, here we go. First startup ever on this tune. See how it goes. Okay guys, well, that's all I'm doing for tonight. It's pretty late, so I'm not messing with it anymore, but tomorrow maybe I'll take it for a spin. And as you guys could see, it when it first starts, it might backfire, it might spit and sputter, but the idle might be high, might be low, but it'll figure it out. And that's the great thing about these Holleys, they just slowly get better and better and better the more you drive it. Just make sure all your vacuum lines are on there. You don't have any vacuum leaks. Same thing as a carburetor. If you have any of that basic stuff wrong, it's not going to work right. It's just going to be frustrating. But yeah, hopefully you guys have just as easy as experience as me, and it fires right up first time for you, and you guys can get out there and enjoy your car and don't have to worry about your carburetor anymore. So stick around and watch for the next video coming out. We'll probably take this thing out and see how she does on the first drive, see if the EFI can learn the car just like it used to, and maybe we'll make some adjustments on the fuel tables too. But yeah, should be as easy as that for you guys to install it. Thanks for watching.